Hi, everybody. This video is in response to a caregiver who mentioned extreme sacrifices to care for an aging parent as a result of being religious. And in this case, this person was Catholic. And she said that her duty to caregiver, her obligation to caregive, was as a result of her faith. And I received many questions from caregivers who have great faith and believe that what they are doing is right, and then some that become angry or resentful. So in this video, I'm going to specifically address the questions offered by this caregiver saying, I wish you'd address being Catholic and caregiving and the duty, and I'm so angry and all of that, and how do we work through that? So a lot of Catholics, a lot of religious people believe in self-sacrifice. And in my opinion, the question we have to ask ourselves is sacrifice good if it places one person at a disadvantage? Or should sacrifice be equally and mutually beneficial? People can sacrifice for all kinds of reasons, to make other people feel guilty, to manipulate other people. And if that really is the goal of the sacrifice, how religious is that? How good is that? Sacrifice, if it results in a desire to control or make other people feel bad, really isn't coming from a place of good or love or blessings. So that's what we have to look at. So stay with me while we look at both sides of caregiving and sacrificing to care for another person, whether you are religious or not. I'm Pamela D Wilson. Please like and share these videos down below so that more people can find hope, help, and support. You can go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com. On there, so much help and support for caregivers and aging adults. My podcast, The Caring Generation. There are over 800 videos here on YouTube. Also on my website, an online course for caregivers about taking care of aging parents and yourself. My blog, my book, tons of information. So in this idea of sacrifice, let's start with the idea of what I call martyr complex, because this is probably something that most of us can relate to. We've either experienced it in a relationship or at work or somewhere. And so martyr complex is the idea that people feel like they have to sacrifice their needs and give up all of these things for other people. But sometimes it's driven by past relationships or feeling like a victim or feeling like you're very powerless or you're at a disadvantage. So the other person's up here and you as the caregiver are down here. Much of this in family caregiving relationships where a person feels like they have to give up everything can come from early child-parent relationships where a parent may have been physically or emotionally abusive. They may have been alcohol dependent, drug dependent, and they made their children feel bad. So if you're an adult child and you think back, did your parents make you feel bad? And were you continually trying to seek their approval or gain attention from them? If that is the case and you are a caregiver today in a relationship with an abusive parent, are you still in those patterns of doing all these things, hoping that mom or dad are going to say, thank you or appreciate you? If your parents have those issues, and they could be mental health issues, they may not be able to change those. And so these abusive relationships, if you think about it, it really is sort of like domestic violence, where there are degrees, right? A little abuse, a lot of abuse. And saying that a woman or a man should stay in a domestic violence situation because it's the Catholic thing to do, because God gives us suffering, because we're supposed to do this. Only you in your situation can answer how logical that is. Many caregivers will go to see counselors, and the counselors will say, get out of that relationship, end that. And the caregivers stay in. And they're angry at their counselors for saying, get out. But yet everybody on the outside may be saying, what are you still doing in this relationship? You're crazy for staying in. Again, you're the only one that can make the choice to leave. But just because you choose to stay in does not mean that other caregivers who choose to leave are bad, okay? People who have these issues of self-worth or want attention. And then others who have mental health problems, they may never be able to appreciate or understand anything because they're so ingrained in their habits and in their behaviors. And so that may never change. You have to decide to be the person that is going to say, I'm done with this. I've had enough. I'm moving on and I'm going to find care for this person. So let's look at other examples in the workplace because everybody has experienced this. People can become really focused on who does the most work or who spends the most hours in the office or who works the longest hours. Just because you work a lot of hours does not mean that your work is effective or better than someone else's. Again, this can be really hard to understand if you're that person who's, working 12 hours a day and you see somebody else who works 8 hours and they're getting promoted and they're getting raises. When you think about your work, ask yourself these questions. What hours or what time of day are you most effective? When do you run out of energy or focus and the work that you're doing is way less effective? You're tired, you're distracted, you're not producing anything, right? Sometimes you become impatient with other people. Is that good? And if you keep going in this state of exhaustion, how does that get better? How is that better for you? How is it better for the people or the work that you're doing or your teammates or your coworkers or anybody, right? If you're angry all the time. Very early in my career, many years ago, it was interesting because I worked at companies where the president and the top managers would exercise every day, right? They would go out in the morning, they would run at lunch, exercise at lunch, do it later in the day. And what I noticed was these individuals had a lot of energy. They were happier. They were more focused and productive. So I started doing that for myself. I exercise to this day. But things like that can be a lesson for everybody, especially caregivers who neglect their needs, right? If you don't take care of yourself, how can you take care of other people? And what we all want to realize is that if we want things in our life, if we want to be treated a certain way, we have to treat other people in those ways. If you want kindness, you have to be kind to other people. If you want friends, you have to be a friend to other people. So you can't get things or bring things into your life that you don't do yourself, that you are not yourself. So if you are this caregiver who is angry at your siblings because you're doing all the work and you're the only one that seems to care, how good is that? What good are you bringing into your life? And this particular caregiver said, well, I've given up my life to care for my parent and my health is bad and I've suffered financially and I think that my siblings should reimburse me for all of my time and effort. Why should they? The caregiver made that choice, even despite people telling the caregiver, stop doing it, leave. The foundation of this was that caregiver had an abusive parent that they felt that they had to make happy beyond anything else in their life. And so they ended up in this bad situation. So if this happens to you and you're religious, Catholic, Lutheran, whatever it is, if the effort of your suffering that you believe that you have to do results in you feeling exhausted, angry, resentful, having poor relationships with other people, how is that really religious or good or godlike or a blessing if the result is negative? That's a question only you can answer. What I can say is, and I've seen this, when anybody focuses on the idea that you do more work than anybody else, or you start comparing yourself to other people, that results in very negative thoughts and attitudes, and constant comparisons to other people can make us really feel bad, like we have no self-worth, like we're not worth anything, like we can't do anything right. And then when you start thinking that, that's actually what you bring more of into your life. So we have to kind of stop this thinking that self-sacrifice is always good, that we are not as good or not as blessed as other people. We have to change those things. So here's a few questions to ask yourself. If you think that suffering to care for other people because your religion is good or for whatever reason, When you think about self-sacrifice, are the people involved in this relationship making equal sacrifices, or is it unbalanced either direction? Does the good for everyone outweigh the sacrifices? If your health is suffering as the caregiver and your parent is getting all this attention, that's a little unbalanced. How can that be good? Are the sacrifices that you are making harming your health, your ability to care for yourself, your family relationships, your children, your marriage? How can that be good from a religious or non-religious perspective? If you sacrifice and the position is not positive, is that sacrifice good? These are all questions that we have to answer for ourselves. Anybody who devotes 24 hours a day to caregiving may think that anybody who doesn't do that is bad. Is judgment considered something good in your religion? And then on the other hand, a person who refuses to be that 24/7 caregiver, who's to say that they are less than loving and less than a good person? Everybody has responsibilities in life. Everybody has duties. We feel compelled to do things because we want to or because other people feel that we should. We all have to choose how we contribute, how we move through these situations in life. Another question: where family obligation destroys an individual life, whether it is a caregiver or a child or a parent, is that for the good of everyone? Question only you can answer. What I can say is that if we don't love and take care of ourselves as caregivers, we can't love and take care of other people. And if the sacrifices that you are making as a caregiver that you believe you have to make makes you depressed and you're just hoping that you get through the next day without something horrible happening, and you lose the ability to relate to other people or appreciate other people, and you lose the view of what's going on out there in the world because you're so focused on this little thing here that's in front of you that's caregiving, that you don't even remember who you were before caregiving, and you can't find the person that you were because you've been doing this for so long, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And you get to this point where you resent other people for not caring or helping. You watch other people go through your life and you're jealous. You're jealous that they have marriages and friends and families and careers. Long-term sacrifice in anything results in running out of energy, and you can become angry at yourself and dislike yourself for the choices that you make and everything that happens. So this thought of matching up religion and caregiving and duty and responsibility and culture, and I should do this and I shouldn't do this, it really is an individual thing that we all have to work through. There is no right, there is no wrong, and there should be no judgment of other people for whether they decide to help you or whether they don't decide to help you. Because it's a choice eventually that you make, right? You make to stay in the relationship, you choose to leave the relationship, you choose to find other options to care for your parents or the person that you love. Lots of questions and a lot of different answers here. I'm Pamela D Wilson. Thanks for being here with me for this video. Please again, click the like button below, follow me on my YouTube channel, share this video with other people who are looking for hope, help, and support, and go over to my website. So much help, support, care for caregivers and aging adults. Take advantage of it and share it with other people. Have a fabulous day today. I look forward to seeing you all again soon in another video.